How successful has the Bluefire Reader been with libraries, and how would you like to see it expand?
Well, I think to me, I see it a little differently as being successful with libraries versus with readers who are getting books from libraries. And when we first released the app, it supported library lending, but it wasn't optimized for making it really easy to get those library books in and out. And so we got a lot of feedback from our users that wanted to see that be better, and so we did make it better. And we've literally gotten hundreds of nice emails and comments about people really liking the feature. What our users would love is if it were a lot easier to get the content directly into the application, directly from the library site. And that's something that is totally possible, but that's really on the side of the library website, and those are mostly run by companies like Overdrive. And so it's just a matter of them taking the initiative to make that easier for users to have choice of downloading directly from their apps. So right now they're downloading directly into, for example, the Overdrive apps. And what I've been talking to them about is it would be nice if users had a choice. And I'd love to see that. It's something that we believe in supporting libraries, although it's not part of our business model like it would be for an Overdrive. So I totally understand where they're coming from on that. But they've really been very open and seem to be very interested in accommodating that. So I think that there's a good chance we'll see that. And we're getting about 40,000 plus downloads a month, which for a kind of a previously unknown company is pretty good. And I think a lot of that has to do with libraries. So I'm happy about that. I think it's going really well.
Bluefire Productions announced the BooksAMillion e-reader app in December. What are some of the features that set it apart from other e-reader apps?
Well, I think a big part of what sets the BooksAMillion app apart, as well as Bluefire Reader and the other apps that we are offering to our customers, is that our philosophy is to have a very open system. So we want, so in both the Bluefire Reader and the BooksAMillion reader, people can get books from Google, from Barnes & Noble, a wide variety of places. They can move the books in and out, side loading wirelessly, Dropbox, all kinds of things. And so I think that by far is really the big difference between these systems. They really try to kind of keep you in their system. They don't want books from other sources. And BooksAMillion is unique in that among some of the major retailers is that it supports library books in their mobile applications. And because it's based on Bluefire Reader, and so that's pretty neat. And we had a discussion with them about, well, do we want to make this? Do we really want that feature in there? Do we want to make it this easy for library books? And Craig, who's the CEO of BooksAMillion, was very supportive of it and liked the idea of it. So I was very happy to see that.
Excellent. Your company is now an authorized reseller of Adobe Content Server 4 and Adobe Vendor ID service. What does this mean for your company, and how will it affect future plans?
For our company, it is an additional revenue source. That's good. It also allows us to be engaging customers early on when they're first really making that decision to go digital, because a lot of times when a lot of publishers and content holders, when they're first going to go digital, they're looking at, well, how do we protect our content so that we can distribute it? So that gives us a really early touch point with those customers, and then kind of help them through the process of getting the kind of end-to-end solution. And we don't offer every piece of that pie of a complete end-to-end solution. But we offer some really critical pieces and can help them find other ones in that ecosystem. And the vendor IDs product, or it's a service by Adobe, is brand new, and it's going to be a very major impact in the sense that what it allows for is that a company that has a ebook application, currently today, the user has to have their account with the retailer, and their Adobe ID account. A lot of them don't have Adobe ID account, so they get this app. Now they're prompted to get an Adobe ID, and that can be confusing. They have to go through that process. It's multiple IDs, and it becomes harder for that customer to initially get that direct relationship with the customer going. And that's really the advantage of a branded reading solution, so having your own. And so Vendor ID will allow them to use their own user accounts to allow the customer to, in kind of one step, create the relationship with the retailer publisher, to authorize their application for DRM purposes. And so it just simplifies it for the user, and it gives the publishers or the retailers as well, a real powerful tool for engagement and customer relationship management. So it's a real significant thing. Asset technology in general, and then our ability to resell that is just very nice because it ties in perfectly with what we're doing, which is providing them with their own custom apps. And so it really just goes perfectly together.
Right. Changing directions just a little bit. You're a big believer in book accessibility, especially when it comes to children.
Yes.
Where is accessibility falling short, and what are some solutions?
Well, I think there's, in that term accessibility, there's the aspect of that which is for people being able to access the content that don't have perfect vision. And screen reader technologies and that kind of thing. And then there's also the aspect of just access to content, right? Which is similar concepts, but from a technology standpoint, a little different, right? And so in the question of access to content, I think libraries are going to be an important piece of that. And so one of the great things about, like I was saying with BooksAMillion, embracing this idea of having a commercial application that also supports libraries, and having that proliferate. And I'd just love to see, as we're just about to come out with Android, we're going to be making our own desktop apps that'll be brandable, and so to see a proliferation of reading systems that all support libraries and lending models, I think is a huge piece of that. And especially in a lot of foreign countries, they don't have quite the level of the library system that we have here in our big cities. But I think the whole idea of ebooks in general provides that access to content, especially for people in rural locations, and in the United States even, but also in particular all over the world where they don't have quite the robust commercial bookstore chains, they don't have the libraries in every community. To have that access to content is huge, and so I think that's just a big part of digital as a whole. And so making that especially with mobile devices, because in a lot of the poor communities and in the third world, what we're finding is that people don't have PCs, and people are getting these smartphones. And now that the prices of these smartphones are really being driven down, I really think that in much of the world, the phone is going to be the primary computing device. And to be able to have access to huge libraries of things like the Gutenberg libraries, public libraries, as well as the commercial books as well, and having that access to it is access to content that they just would never have before. And to me, the idea of a kid in a rural area of Vietnam or wherever having access to the Library of Congress, I think it's really awesome. It's really a sea change, and I think, and it's funny because I'm maybe a little bit of an idealist, even though I'm a businessman, and so I don't want to be overly grandiose, but I really think it will change the world. Access to knowledge is absolutely important, and it's something that is a true change. Right? The internet was like that, but the internet wasn't very deep. It was broad, it was shallow, and so to have that depth that books bring to it is a major, I think, change for, the globe, for everybody. And so it's going to be really great to see that start to play out.
Yeah. Thank you very much for speaking with me.